This is PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome to PIX on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Mannarino. And with the elections behind us, the newly elected leaders look now to build on what they promised to voters, setting the foundation for when the real work begins in January. Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill delivering her last speech on the House floor this week as she moves into her new role now as governor of New Jersey. And I spoke with the governor-elect this week. Here's our conversation. And Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill is joining me now. Great to see you, and a big congratulations.
Thanks so much. Great to see you.
So let me ask you first and foremost how the transition is going. I know you jumped right in. You met with Governor Phil Murphy. How's it going?
It's going great. There are people on my team that have been hard at work at this since August, really. I had to jump out a little bit, as you can imagine, the last weeks in October. Yeah. There was something going on. But I've been dying to get to it. And so we hit the ground running day one, meeting with the governor, members of the Senate and Assembly majority leadership team, and then I've met with minority members. So really looking to deliver for the people of New Jersey as quickly as possible.
I see that you opened a portal accepting applications for new jobs, right? How many applications are you looking at here? And can you kind of explain how that all works? Because there are people who are currently working for the government. So do those folks get replaced, or do some of them keep their jobs?
Well, there's career civil servants who work have worked for Christie, some of them work for the governor, et cetera. And then there are people in leadership positions who will be coming on to enact my vision and my mission. Yeah. And so there will be new leadership, a lot of new leadership positions being filled by my team. So it's kind of a mix as there's nuts and bolts of running government. So there's some arcane budget issues that people need to have a lot of technical information about, like in 1867 they did this for this, right. That kind of stuff. So you really need those people in the government who can walk you through what's legal, what's not, what's constitutional in New Jersey, et cetera, and why. And then you have people like the commissioners, the commissioner of education or environment, who will come in to really be with a team enacting a new mission.
Any names you want to throw out right now, or keeping those under wraps?
Well, as you've probably seen, we've announced the transition lead,
yes,
which is my Lieutenant Governor, Dale Caldwell, and Kelly Doucette. And then I've announced my Chief of Staff, Alex Spall, and Tim Lydon, who will be Chief Counsel. And then we'll be rolling out more announcements in the coming days and weeks.
Okay, Governor-elect, I want to go back to election night, right? Because polling showed this to be an extremely tight race. And I spoke to Democrats and Republicans. I'm a Jersey guy myself. And both sides were nervous going in just because of how tight it was. And then the polls closed. We here at PIX 11 called it within minutes after the polls closed. And in the end, it was a 14-point margin, right? So were you a little bit nervous going into election night? And how do you think things played out now with this wide margin?
No, I wasn't. We had a huge Democratic firewall going into the election, about 300,000 people from both vote by mail and early in-person voting. And so we had a lot of confidence going into election day. And at that point, it was just really getting out our vote. We'd put together an incredible field team, the likes of which the state had never seen. And we were really pulling out votes from places normally Democrats don't have a field team in. But I come from those suburbs. I have done tons of work, for example, in Morris County, which I won for the first time since Watergate. So I was in every corner of the state. At the end of my campaign, I did a 21 county bus tour because I'm committed to serving everyone in New Jersey and growing that coalition of what it's going to take for working people to have opportunity in our state. And that's kind of different from, I think, previous ways of running campaigns here. So it was really effective. And I think speaks to people being connected to my vision of bold leadership, of delivering, and then their trust in me because I'm both a veteran and a mom. So I think they trusted that I would see that vision out.
And you did something really interesting in all of the counties in New Jersey. Now, in the last presidential election, people were saying, President Trump closed the gap and narrowed the margins in New Jersey. You have taken those margins and brought them over to the left in every single county. And I'm wondering what you attribute that to. Is it the economy? Was the government shutdown a part of it?
Certainly, I think the constant hits and attacks from the Trump administration on the economy, on affordability, on taking away opportunity. And what I focused on and what I will continue to focus on is opportunity. That has been so intrinsic to the middle class and working people here in this country for decades. Certainly, I charted out in my campaign often about my own family and my grandpa's union job and my dad's ability to pay for himself to get through college, and opening up the military to combat on ships and aircraft for women, and all of the opportunity that I've seen grow, the ability for so many people to compete, to have a seat at the table. And that's what I think connected to working people, whether in Gloucester County or in Essex County. That idea that I'm going to fight hard
Yeah.
to create, great education, great opportunity, great jobs here in this state was really compelling.
And Democrats celebrated big wins in your race and really across the country on election night. But some folks are saying that Democrats fumbled the ball in recent days with the votes on the government shutdown, right? So do you think that there was a bit of a fumbling in that moment within the party?
I've expressed my frustration. I certainly think that we really need new, bold leadership, and that was not exhibited by the Senate. And that's why I think governors have become so important in this fight, to really show how we're fighting for people, what we can do to actually create opportunity and fight against an economy that is really, I think, creating huge problems for working people, whether it's raising costs on coffee, on your cup of coffee in the morning, your grocery store prices, or even the college kids I've spoken to are looking at a job market that doesn't seem to have a place for them. Whereas just a year ago, we were talking to companies that were expanding. So that's right on the table. That's
Yeah.
what Democrats have to do. I don't, it doesn't seem as if some of our more senior leadership is up for that fight. That's why I think a new generation of leaders is taking our seat at the table.
Yeah, and so in the days, weeks, and months ahead, obviously you were laser focused on some of the things you talked about during your campaign, but you do need the federal government help for some of it, right? So just curious, have you had any conversations with the White House, with the president, since your win?
I've had conversations with people in this administration about what we can do and how we can partner on things like infrastructure projects. But really, when I speak to the president, I really want to hear, and I'm going to
Yeah.
ask for understanding of where this administration is going on healthcare. Um, they have torn down a lot of the structures, whether it's Medicare or the Affordable Care Act. We're seeing people's premiums here going up by about 175%. So this must be addressed. Even Jeff Van Drew, who's a close ally of the president's, has been very clear in saying healthcare is something that has to be handled.
Yeah.
And certainly with the federal government, with the president, with the Senate and the House in Republican hands, we have seen zero plans for that. And that is something that I would like to address right away.
Yeah, a governor-elect, speaking of the president, he said that the Gateway Tunnel project was absolutely terminated here. And I know that was an issue towards the end of the campaign. So where does that project stand now, and how will you fight for it once you are sworn in?
Right now, it sounds as if we have the near-term funding, so I'll continue to fight to make sure all of the funding continues to come in. So we'll move along, because as we know, that project is responsible for almost 100,000 jobs in the region, 200,000 commuters take it a day. So that is a critical program to ensure the economy continues to grow. And as we see all the economic problems in this administration, and an area that can produce about 20% of the nation's GDP, the investment in this area will be critical if we want to keep our economy on some level of sustainability.
And speaking of transit, when I spoke to you during the campaign many times, Chris Calori's name came up and you said you would keep him on, but obviously he has other plans. He just announced that he's going to leave at the end of January. So any names that are surfacing for NJ Transit?
We've had a couple of great names floated, so we're interviewing people, and hopefully we'll have some details soon.
Oh, come on, give me something.
We just have a really great talent pool in this area.
Yeah.
And what I am looking for are leaders who are going to challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
There's some, I said during my campaign often, there's the right way, the wrong way, and the New Jersey way.
Yeah.
We need to kind of break out of that mindset and really take on innovation. That's what our state has been famous for historically. So I want to reinvigorate that as we move forward.
And obviously, just kind of looking at your seat, you're going to officially resign from Congress next week, right? And there's a lot of attention now being placed on the 11th District of New Jersey, and the Lieutenant Governor is throwing her name in, amongst others. Anybody you are going to support early on?
It is sort of a travesty of riches. We have great candidates running. So I can't wait to see who the people of the 11th District choose.
All right, Governor-elect, I have to ask you one final question. It may be the toughest yet, and it's something I heard you say during the campaign, and it's about Taylor ham. It's a thing. I mean, you said it, do you not like it? What is it?
I said that I didn't like the description of it as pork roll. That did not sound appetizing to me. So I obviously love Taylor ham. In fact, when I was asked to go on a cooking show at Montclair State University a couple months ago, I made something that my husband, I think he invented. Somebody will probably challenge me, but he calls it eggs Montclair instead of eggs Benedict. And instead of Canadian bacon, it has Taylor ham in it. So it is certainly a staple in my family.
Okay, I'd like, you know what? That's our next story. I'm going to come get one of those from your husband, all right?
They're delicious.
All right.
I can't say they're like super health conscious, but they're delicious.
Oh, good. Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill, one of many conversations. Great to have you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, and as one governor moves in, another one moving on after serving the Garden State for 8 years. So next up, I'm going one-on-one with Governor Phil Murphy as he reflects back on his tenure and his hopes for New Jersey's future. We'll be right back.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome back to PIX on Politics, everybody. Governor Phil Murphy will soon hand over the reins to Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill, who I just spoke with after serving New Jersey for 8 years. And I also spoke with Mr. Murphy about his legacy and the future of New Jersey politics. Here's our final conversation. And Governor Phil Murphy is joining me now. Governor, great to have you here on PIX on Politics.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Good to be back.
I feel like it's been a while since you and I talked. We have a lot to catch up on. So you're about to hand over the reins now to the governor-elect, Mikie Sherrill. I just spoke to her about an hour ago before talking to you. How has the transition process been from your end?
Really, really good. I'm a huge fan of hers. We've had several meetings already. In fact, we had dinner with a group of CEOs last evening. She's got a great team led by her Lieutenant Governor, Dale Caldwell. Could not be more excited for her and for the state of New Jersey.
You know, Gov, how does the handoff actually work going into an administration from another administration, right? What do you hope to see the Sherrill administration continue? And are you urging anybody, your commissioners or your appointees, to stay on?
Well, those are decisions that she'll make. Obviously, we're an open book with her in terms of talent and where we've been emphasizing policies, and her vision is, broadly speaking, if you sort of draw the big arc of history, broadly speaking, in the direction that we've been going over the past 8 years. So there's a lot of commonality. She'll do things her own way, and she'll stake out positions that are unique to her. But if you look at the broad arc, it's going in a similar direction, and I could not be happier, as I say, for her and for the state of New Jersey.
You know, I want to talk about the Democrats as a party in a whole, right? It's the first time Democrats have ever won 3 gubernatorial races in a row. And Sherrill herself actually closed some of the strongholds that were Republican strongholds, brought them a little more left, narrowed those margins. What do you think it is about the Democratic Party in New Jersey right now that is doing so well, and what we saw play out on Tuesday night overall?
Yeah, it was a huge win for her. 13 points. It reminded me, Dan, of our first run in 2017.
Yeah.
So I think you got 3 components. You got a lot of people really into her and Dale Caldwell and what they stand for, their vision. Secondly, as I mentioned a little selfishly, they probably were endorsing the general direction as to where we've been going the past 8 years, and that's gratifying, obviously. You also had a huge amount of, wait a minute, this America is not the one I signed up for. And there's a huge amount of, wait a minute, including people in the middle of the political spectrum who said, enough, I'm not into this wrecking ball in the East Wing, freezing the Gateway Tunnel, making the callous, cruel decision to not fund SNAP or food stamps, yanking people out of warehouses indiscriminately without any sense of people's immigration status or any sense of anyone's done anything wrong. I think you had a lot of people turning out and say, you know what, that's not the America I signed up for.
Yeah, and I'm curious what you think then, listening to you very carefully here, that Democrats need to do right now to unify as a whole, not just in New Jersey, but there's been a lot of talk about where the party is going, right? And they did win big on election night, but then people are saying they fumbled the play with the vote on the government shutdown.
Yeah, I don't agree with the senators that defected. Somebody said they snatched, well, I'm gratified the government's open again. Don't get me wrong. And things like SNAP funding is flowing, and that's a good thing. But boy, I think they got very little back for the position that they staked out, particularly on health care. Someone mentioned to me they stole defeat from the jaws of victory. I don't think it's a long-term impact. But come on, folks. I mean, if you're going to die on that hill and healthcare affordability and accessibility, particularly with these crazy increases in premia, that's a hill I'd die on. And Democrats should be proud to stand strong on that.
So what's your advice, I guess, to the party then, Governor? Right? You have a centrist in Mikie Sherrill winning big. Then you have a Democratic Socialist in New York City, Zohran Mamdani, winning big. And many saying, well, which direction is the party? Is there somewhere in the middle of those two that the party needs to go? What do you see?
Yeah, you've also got a similarly situated in terms of policy winner in the Virginia race as to Mikie.
Yeah.
First of all, Dan, we're the big tent party. That's probably our greatest asset and our greatest challenge. I also think New York City is politically kind of its own unique animal. We root for its success. Central and North Jersey, in many respects, relies on New York City's success. We're co-hosting the World Cup final with them. But listen, I think I have said this over the years, including with you on your program. I'm a proud progressive and a cold-blooded capitalist. And I personally think that's where most of our party, at the end of the day, lands. I think that's where Mikie is. I think that's where Abigail Spanberger is. And again, having said that, we've got a big tent. Let there be no doubt about it.
And there's a lot of talk also at this point in time about working with and standing up to the president at the same time, something that you've managed to do over the course of your administration. So what is your advice to not only Mikie Sherrill, but Democrats as a whole who are now looking to do the same?
Yeah, you have to do both. You've got to get that balance right. You can never abandon your principles, your values, to not have the backs of the communities and the individuals who are under siege and be aggressive about all of that. And at the same time, have an element of goodwill to try to find common ground. That balance is not easy, I promise you, but that is what I think the right balance is to strike. And that's what we try to do every day.
So how do you take that right now and what's playing out with the Gateway Tunnel project, right? It's such an important project. I know you've been focused on it, and the president said, well, it's terminated. So how do you stand up to him to make sure that it doesn't become terminated?
Well, we do a lot. I mean, he said that. There's no, those are his words. There's no pen to paper suggesting otherwise. I'm an optimist on this one, Dan. There's too much at stake, and I think the president gets that. And it came up in the middle of the whole tussle about the government shutdown. And you've got leaders in both chambers on the Democratic side in New York State, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. And I think it came up in that context. Too much is at stake. 90 to 100,000 building trades jobs. By the way, probably the majority of whom voted for Donald Trump. The one-seat ride, 20% of the nation's GDP riding on those rails. I'm an optimist. I think at the end of the day, this lands in the right place, which is it gets built.
Gov, I know you're coming to the end of your term. I hope to talk to you one more time, but just in case I don't, you and I have spoken through a lot, right? A pandemic being one of them. So what are you most proud of?
Listen, this has been the responsibility position of a lifetime. I'm proud of the fact, among other things, Dan, we are who we said we would be. Sometimes in politics, folks campaign on one theme and then they get into office and it turns out that's not who they are. I don't think we've ever violated that. We are who we said we would be. I'm humbled by the support I've gotten from 9.5 million extraordinary New Jerseyans. We've got a couple of months still to go. I promise you we're going to sprint through the tape We've got a lot of balls in the air right now, a lot of really good stuff. So in addition to the transition and doing everything we can to give Mikie and her team a smooth runway, we have a lot we still want to accomplish, and we've got our heads down sprinting right now.
Up against the clock here, but a presidential run for you ever?
I don't know. Haven't given it a lick of thought. We're going to take a little bit of time off, recharge the batteries, and then we'll figure out what moves we make from there.
Okay, not a yes, not a no. Governor Murphy, always appreciate you making the time for us, and have a great Thanksgiving to you and your family, okay?
Same right back, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And when we come back, a look at Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani's transition team. Hear from his newly selected first deputy mayor when I speak to him one-on-one. PIX on Politics back in just 2 minutes. And welcome back to PIX on Politics, everybody. So Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani beginning to shape his new administration, and I had the chance to go one-on-one with his choice for first deputy mayor, Dean Fullahan, a familiar name for some from the de Blasio administration. He plans to use his experience to help accomplish Mr. Mamdani's aggressive agenda. New York Post came out and was talking about you in particular, saying that when you were the city's budget director, it went from $73.9 billion for the city's budget to $85 billion. So there was an increase in the budget spending. Do you anticipate that happening again this time around in this administration, seeing an increase in the budget to get some of these things done?
Yes. I mean, it's...
And why that is not seen as a positive or negative?
Well, there are needs that have to be addressed by New Yorkers, and we have to find the resources. But the mayor-elect has also been very clear. There are inefficiencies in government. There are places where we need to find savings. We need to make it more efficient. We need to do that. And that's part of the mission that we're going to accomplish. It's a new administration. It's an aggressive agenda. And that has to be the negotiation and the goal. Is it going to increase? Certainly.
All right, and our full interview now posted on PIX11.com. And we'll be right back. And that'll do it for another busy episode of PIX on Politics, everybody. I'm Dan Mannarino. I'll see you back here next week.